In what is possibly the most blatant act of fascism, in an exclusive interview with CBC News, Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper says that Islamicism is the biggest threat to Canada. Speaking with Peter Mansbridge in a full-length interview, he declared the major threat is still Islamicism. These words are shocking. They frighteningly echo the words of Adolf Hitler decades ago, saying the greatest threat to the German people was Jews. Stephen Harper is a fear-mongering and as hateful as Hitler was 70 years ago. It has been the intent of the Conservative government for some time now to bring a culture of fear, very much like what existed in the United States after 9/11. Harper maintains that Islamicism is the one that occupies the security apparatus most regularly in terms of actual terrorist threats. However, one needs to only look at the national statistics to see that more Canadians are killed by peanut allergies than terrorism. The idea that Islam is taking over Canada is a ridiculous claim. It's nothing more than fear-mongering in the name of fascism. According to government statistics, only 2.6% of Canadians are Muslim. It's just more Chicken Little screaming by a majority of Christians who don't want other faiths to exist. Commonly cited is an attempt to set up Sharia law courts in Canada in 2005. While this is commonly cited as proof as Islam taking over Canada, it's forgotten that these courts were stopped in near record time. As a result, all religious arbitration in Ontario was banned. There was no takeover of Sharia law. It stood no chance of being set up. Supposed Islamic fundamentalist terrorism is as equally a complete fantasy of Christian fundamentalists. Every arrest of so-called terrorism has been thrown out of court due to a lack of evidence. The famed Toronto 18 case, where 18 individuals were held as suspected terrorists, was thrown out of court, with the judge saying the police didn't even have enough to warrant an arrest. All individuals walked, except for one that publicly called for the Prime Minister to be killed. The media and the police promoted the guilt of these men. The police declared that the 18 had links to Al-Qaeda, that they stated they knew they were connected to the fictional terrorist organization. The police said that they had raided a terrorist training camp in Northern Ontario. The police claimed they had confiscated documents and communications, all of which was an absolute lie. The judge declared that there was no actual evidence against them. The supposed links to Al-Qaeda were a complete fabrication. The so-called terror training camp was a cottage on a small property at a lake. The documents and communications were copies of the Quran. Last year, a man was arrested when police found a supposed bomb in his car. The bomb turned out to be an alternative fuel cell for his vehicle. The police detained the man for a day and publicly stated that he was aggressive and irate. Let me guess, he was pissed off at being called a terrorist for having an alternative fuel cell in his car. Lesson learned here, kids. Stick to oil or the cops will start making all kinds of accusations against you. Earlier this year, a Muslim man in Ottawa was arrested for having 50 circuit boards in his house. The man was a computer engineer who had many computer parts in his home. That's like arresting a farmer for having fertilizer. Well, piece of advice to Muslim men: stay out of technology school or the PC repair business, because the police are going to lock you up claiming that you're trying to build bombs. This is the kind of fabrication of threats these fascists are creating in order to take away our rights and force us under the jackboot of capitalism. As capitalism continues to crumble and becomes more and more unstable, the ruling class will have to resort to more and more totalitarian measures in order to keep their decrepit, exploitive system in place. All of this has been exercised in fear-mongering in order to bring back the extremely fascist anti-terrorist laws that were created in 2001, but were defeated by popular resistance in 2007. In the interview by the CBC, Harper declared his intention to bring them back. When asked by Peter Mansbridge if he would try to bring back those laws, Harper replied, "That is our plan." We think those measures are necessary. We think they've been useful. And, as you know, they're applied rarely, but there are times when they're needed. Whipping up anti-Islamic sentiment is nothing more than a pathetic fascist ploy to distract from what are the real threats to us. The real threat is the continuing economic decline of the entire world, which threatens the entire population with starvation and disease. Unemployment that is making people more and more desperate in order to survive. Never mind the seemingly escalating possibility of war between China and the United States, which we as Canadians will no doubt get dragged into. And never mind the destruction of the environment, which threatens the end of all human life completely. But no, none of that is important at all. The greatest threat to Canada is someone who has a different religion than you. To every single person who voted Conservative, rot in hell, you deserve it.